We have so much snow. I have a cold, but we're gonna do a video on quinoa. Bryan just got out of the bath.
I'm sick.
Little sneak peek for the end of the video. Because it's been snowing like crazy, because I have a cold, I feel like all we've eaten the last few days has been soup. So I thought this was a good time to just pull myself together and start a video on quinoa. And a lot of you have been really enjoying when we do videos where we spotlight a certain ingredient and all the different ways that we use that ingredient throughout a week. One suggestion was quinoa. And I thought to bring some brightness into this week, I would make my pineapple quinoa stir fry to get us started with this. And for this recipe, I cook quinoa first, and then I just make the stir fry after the fact, so you could prep the quinoa in advance. So I'll start off by showing you just really simply how to cook quinoa. And when I made this quinoa recipe, the pineapple quinoa stir fry, I had really beautiful tricolor quinoa, but I don't have that today. I just have plain white quinoa, but it will be just as delicious, slightly less pretty. So I'll get that going. And then I don't know if I'll have energy and time for it today, but I'm also going to try popping quinoa. And I've done this before. We have a cauliflower recipe that has popped quinoa underneath it. And we have a whole YouTube video, I believe, on popping quinoa, or maybe it's just a segment. It's a little finicky, and I've never done it on this new stove. So I'll give that a try and add it to some granola bars. And then I think maybe tomorrow I'll make a quinoa chili. I'll give us a tiny bit of a break from the soups and make a chili instead. And there's one other thing I was gonna make. Ooh, we'll make a smoothie and put quinoa in it, because we're those kinds of people. I don't know if you can hear the scraping. Bryan's being very sweet and not letting me shovel at all, but I'm in here cooking. So, you know, you just delineate the tasks.
Ugh.
Are you regretting moving back to the land of cold and snow?
You're sick, I'm shoveling. Boo.
So I have this Kirkland brand of quinoa. It has the cooking directions on the back. It's pre-washed and rinsed. You can double check if your quinoa is not. You might want to give it a rinse like rice. But you can cook quinoa sort of like pasta. It cooks really quickly in about 10 to 15 minutes. So if you're not sure, if you don't have a package that has instructions for the exact ratios, you could always just add your quinoa to a pot, cover with water, cook it as if you're cooking pasta when it's tender after 10, 12, maybe 15 minutes. You don't want it to get mushy though. Then you could drain the water, obviously catching all of the quinoa in a fine mesh strainer, and you're good to go. But for this brand, it specifies 1 cup of quinoa, 2 cups water. So a little 1-to-2 ratio. In this recipe, I say 5 cups cooked quinoa, which is usually 1.5 cups raw, because it does swell like rice. So I am going to do 2 cups of raw quinoa, and I'll have a little bit left over to show you how we put it in a smoothie. I should mention, actually, if you're new to using quinoa, I said that you can cook it like a pasta, but it's not pasta. It's actually a seed, and that's why it has a decent amount of protein in it. It's not a huge source of protein, but it's a good little boost. And because it's a seed, a handy tip for cooking it is that you could toast the seeds before you boil them. So usually before I cook quinoa, I just put it in a dry pot or pan for a few minutes over medium heat. Give it a stir just to get some toastiness going, and that kind of helps the texture of the grains and gives it a bit more flavor after it's cooked. So this 2 cups is a little bit much to kind of toast evenly in a pot, but I'm still gonna do it. Even though I have a cold, I can smell that the quinoa is getting nice and toasty. So I'm going to add the 2 cups water in now, and I've reduced the heat just a little bit, just so the water doesn't bubble too much, hopefully. You can also use broth if you'd like. If you know that you're going to be using this for something savory, then you can give it a little bit more flavor and cook it in some vegetable broth. Now I'm just going to raise the heat and bring it to a low boil. That only took a couple minutes to get to a rolling boil. So now I'm going to reduce the heat and then put the lid back on and let it simmer. Instead of 15 minutes, which is what it suggests, I'm gonna undercook it by just 2 to 3 minutes because I know that I'm gonna be cooking this again in the stir fry. So this is after just 12 minutes. You can see that all of that water has been absorbed and the difference in how the grains have puffed up and tenderized. I'm going to not really let this steam that much because, again, I don't want it to overcook, but typically you could just put the lid back on and allow it to steam for about 5 minutes after it has finished cooking and absorbed all the liquid, and that will just make it really fluffy and nice and tender. I just tasted a little bit to make sure that it is fully cooked through and not still crunchy or anything, and I could really tell the difference that bit of toasting the seeds made in the taste and the aroma. It really does make a bit of a difference. So that's a handy tip. And you can also add some salt at this point if you want to give it just a little bit of seasoning. To make my pineapple quinoa stir fry, I'm using frozen pineapple chunks because it's the middle of winter. And what I like to do for this recipe is caramelize those. So I just put them on a hot pan for a few minutes on each side until they get nicely golden brown and all of those juices come out and they get extra sweet, and that flavor from the caramelization is really nice. If you want to make this an even quicker weeknight stir fry, you can skip this step and just toss in some pineapple chunks to the finished stir fry, but taking a few minutes to caramelize them is really nice. Once those are nicely browned, you can take them out of the pan, and in the same pan add a dash of oil, water, or broth, and half of a minced red onion. And you can season that onion and let it cook for 1 to 2 minutes until it's softened and fragrant. And then add in 1 cup of diced carrots, and I used more than 1 cup this time. I probably used closer to 2 cups, but more vegetables, it's all good. You want to let the carrots steam so that they cook through a little bit quicker. So if your pan has a lid, then that's ideal, and you can just put the lid on, let them steam for a few minutes. And while the carrots are steaming, that's when you can make the really simple sauce for this. And this sauce or dressing is 3 tablespoons peanut butter, 3 tablespoons tamari, half a tablespoon sesame oil, 1 teaspoon of chili garlic sauce, 2 teaspoons of lime juice. I actually had fresh limes right now, so I just used a whole lime, and then 1 tablespoon maple syrup. If your peanut butter is a little firm like mine was, then you can add a dash of warm water to help that peanut butter melt and just break up a little bit. And then you can give it a whisk, or if you've done it in a jar like I have, then you can just shake it up until it's combined. At this point, your carrots should be cooked through, so you can add in the green beans as per the recipe, or like we did today, you can add in something like edamame. And we just had this frozen edamame in our freezer, defrosted it, shelled it, and this is a great addition. Now add the quinoa, and it's 5 cups of that cooked quinoa. And I'm actually going to add some spinach in today as well, because we haven't had too many leafy greens, so we might as well get some extra in for this meal. Finally, drizzle that prepared sauce over top, give everything a stir, and I don't like to keep the quinoa in the pan on the heat for too long once I put it in so that it doesn't get too mushy. So try to work quickly, integrate that sauce, and then add those pineapple chunks. And once everything is stirred together and heated through, then take it off the heat. We are going to enjoy this pineapple quinoa stir fry. I am not going to cook anything else today. I've had my fill, so I will see you tomorrow.
Are you sick?
I'm sick. I immediately got to hermit mode and put a sweater on. I can't wait to sit down. So, it's been a couple days since I said see you tomorrow.
I'm sick. And you look great.
I still don't feel great. My voice is still a little funky, but I am starting to recover. And I had to film an audition tonight, but Bryan is starting to downturn. I'm sorry. It was meant to, or it was not meant to happen, but it was bound to happen. I'm on a lot of cold medication still.
You look amazing. So talk about the smoothie bowl we're going to make, because we're sick. We're going to have a smoothie bowl for dinner, but it's got quinoa in it. So that's like dinner.
Yeah, we're still mostly eating soup. We did make some pasta for lunch today though, but it's like somehow, I don't know, we took a nap, it's late now, and
we did an audition.
We need a little something, so we're going to make the smoothie bowl.
But I think the smoothie bowl is an underrated recipe that doesn't get nearly enough love or play on our channel. There's a video for it. It's been on our blog from the early days, and I think it just got buried. But it's like There's quinoa in it.
But we're going to use the leftover of what I cooked the other day in this bowl. What else is in this?
Frozen banana, frozen apple slices.
We don't have frozen apple slices, but we do have apples.
Nice.
So I think it says frozen apple slices or berries. So do you want to cut up an apple or use...
Let's just throw in some blueberries because...
I think we have strawberries too.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Also, we have one lonesome beet from my mom.
Should give it some nice color. So it'll be a little different than what's on the blog, but...
Wait,
What?
are we doing an apple?
You said you wanted berries.
Okay, so we're doing berries. Blueberries? They're good for our brains.
I think Bryan wants blueberries. Blueberries sounds good.
You have blueberries?
Yes.
Where?
How many others of you go through this where you know where things are and your spouse doesn't know where anything is?
I'm sick. I don't feel well. Where is it?
One. How many do you need? Two?
She found them. Where's the quinoa?
In the fridge.
Well, I didn't know where. Well, I didn't.
You didn't know where it was?
No, I knew where, but I didn't see it in the fridge. 1.5 is fine.
Maybe we should have been more prepared for fall. It's kind of like 1 1/4 of a banana. Adding the frozen blueberries will help.
So we do this a lot when we make smoothies. They just end up not really being our recipes, but so we're throwing a beet because we got beets. But hey, that's nice. I just use all of it.
This looks like a cup. We're just gonna use it all.
It's dinner.
Yeah. There is cocoa powder and peanut butter in this. And there's also maple syrup. I don't know if you went... No, we had dates already today.
Yeah, I'm
Dates
okay.
and maple syrup.
Maybe maple syrup. Sick. Not much peanut butter left, but enough to get us there.
Oh, maybe we don't have enough.
Oh, yeah. While Catherine gets the new peanut butter prepped, I will add in some cacao powder.
So you know how the oil all it stays at the top of a new jar of peanut butter? I've heard that people say they put it upside down in the pantry and then it all mixes. I tried that and it didn't mix. I don't know if I did something wrong there or if you have any suggestions. That didn't work, so now I still have to stir it.
I don't know if I said this earlier, but this smoothie bowl is a great way to sneak in some quinoa, a little extra protein. What?
That's like the whole point of the video.
So it says to make this with oat milk, but we only have soy, so
Yeah. Any milk works.
yeah.
And it's soy, so it adds a tiny bit of extra
Yeah.
protein and heft to this. Because it's quinoa, there is more texture to it. Because at least with our blender, maybe if you have a Vitamix, then it gets really smooth. With our blender, you still have a bit of texture from the quinoa, but it doesn't bug us.
You don't
Let us
want
know if it bugs you.
All right, taste test. This is going to be good for our throats. It's nice and cold.
Quinoa in a smoothie. It tastes like a chocolate peanut butter smoothie, and there's a beet in here, and we probably could have put spinach in here and not really have been able to tell. And get the win. Let us know if you try it.
Yeah.
And if you have other surprising smoothie ingredients. Good morning. Hopefully we weren't too delirious last night. I apologize if we were. I haven't looked at the footage yet from what we shot. But this morning I am going to start with the chili, actually, because we actually have been making this quinoa chili for a couple of years, and we've never taken photos of it and put it up on the blog because it's quite similar to the chipotle 2-bean chili that is on the blog, but it has the addition of quinoa. It doesn't have chipotle and a couple other little differences. So we thought this was a good time to just take photos of this recipe and get it up on the blog for you for another option for a chili. So we just finished taking the ingredient shots. I use diced tomatoes, 2 cans of diced tomatoes in this. There's corn. I use 2 kinds of beans. I always change it up. For the photos for today, I'm going to do kidney beans and black beans, but I've used pinto beans. I've used white beans. You could throw an additional bean in there. Don't be beholden to the beans that I use. But today, I usually just use my homemade beans that I've frozen. But I actually have a can of kidney beans, and I was debating whether I should use any of the liquid in the can. When I was growing up, my mom and dad always put the liquid from the cans of beans into chili, but because I usually use frozen ones, I think I'm going to reserve the liquid and I'll add some in if I feel like it. Let me know in the comments if you toss the liquid. I know there's some concerns about the liquid in cans, or if you use it. So I start off with sauteing half of a medium onion and 3 cloves of garlic. Season those with some salt and pepper. Then add in 2 cups kidney beans, 1 cup black beans, or like I said, any other bean that you like. I really like pinto beans in here, and 1 cup corn. And you can use frozen corn or canned corn or fresh corn if you have it. Add about 1.5 tablespoons mild chili powder. If you really like it spicy, go up to 2 tablespoons, and 1 teaspoon cumin. Give everything a stir, and then add the 2 cans of tomatoes, diced tomatoes, and bring all of that liquid to a boil. Reduce to a simmer and add 1/3 cup of raw quinoa, or if you're using cooked quinoa, 1 cup of cooked quinoa. Now allow that to simmer for 20 minutes covered, and you can add 1/2 cup or more of broth or the liquid from your beans if you want a more liquidy chili, but if you prefer a thicker chili, then you can keep it without any additional liquid. And there you have it. So I've just switched the chili off. I'm gonna let it cool for a few minutes before we try to plate it for photos, otherwise it steams up the camera. But I thought that I would mention it might look to you like there's still quite a bit of liquid in that chili, and because there's quinoa in it, as it sits, the quinoa will keep absorbing more liquid, so that will actually get pretty thick. So if you do want a more liquidy chili, then you might want to add a little bit more. But if you're thinking this is way too liquid, I need to thicken this up, if you just wait a little bit, then the quinoa will absorb more. So you can always, when you reheat chili, add a little bit more broth in to give it a bit more liquid if you'd like.
Taste us.
We said it at the same time. I just realized I didn't even taste this while I was making it, but it's good. Has enough salt, just the right amount of spice that has hit me at the back of the throat, which is great, clearing up my sinuses. Really tasty. And I made this sour cream, this cashew sour cream, a few days ago for borscht, and it was the perfect little prop. So we prioritized the daylight for taking photos of another recipe, ramen, that's going to be on the blog soon. Then we had some dinner, and then we lost power. So it seems like it's the middle of the night. It's only 6 o'clock.
We're using one of our film lights for power.
So we're going to pop some quinoa tomorrow, and this is going to be the most drawn out video.
Well, it's all the ways I use quinoa in a week, so
Yeah,
we're
so
still within the week.
We're getting to like day 7.
All right, we're going to cuddle up and stay warm, because who knows how long this will be.
We're popping some quinoa. So this is a fun way that you can pop quinoa at home and turn it into a really toasty, crunchy snack or topping for salads or power bowls. I use it on a really pretty whole roasted cauliflower dish that I make, and I add it on top of like a bed of hummus underneath the whole roasted cauliflower, and it looks really nice. So it is different than puffing quinoa. And I know that some recipes will call popped quinoa puffed quinoa, but puffed quinoa is more like puffed rice, and you can only accomplish that through an industrial process. So that can't be done at home, but you can pop it. Because it's a seed, it's like popping corn kernels, but because quinoa is so much smaller, it is a little more finicky even than popcorn. It's really easy to have it burn and not pop, and there won't be much of a change in the volume of the quinoa at all. So if you pop 1/2 cup of quinoa, you're going to have pretty much 1/2 cup of quinoa that's popped at the end, because it's a very slight difference. You will, looking really closely at it, you'll be able to see the difference of a popped seed versus a non-popped seed. And let's see if I can show that to you today. Like I said, I've done this before successfully, but I've never done it here on this stove, this new electric stove. So the trick to this is to use a pan on the stove that you can safely heat to a high temperature. So I like to use my cast iron pans instead of a stainless steel, especially because I'm still babying this new stovetop that I have, and I don't want any kind of cheaper stainless steel pans to discolor the stovetop at all if I use a really high heat with no oil or anything in the pan. So it'll be a dry pan. I'm going to use my cast iron, and it has to be really hot, like almost to the point of your pan smoking, because you want the seeds to pop pretty much as soon as they hit the pan, and then you want to get them out as soon as they have popped. So I find that having the pan really hot is key. If it's not hot enough and the seeds are too long on a hot but not hot enough pan, they'll burn before they're able to pop. Number 2 is foggy brain. Number 2 is to pop a small amount at a time. So a 1/4 cup is pretty safe, but I might even just do 1/8 a cup because I don't have much time on my lunch break today and I want to be able to get this right. So I think I'm going to pop only 1/8 a cup at a time, so that there's lots of room for the seeds to move around and get all of that heat in the pan and they're not too crowded. And the third is to keep the pan moving, to try to keep shaking it, and that way the seeds won't kind of stay in one place and burn. Here we go. So I have my deep Dutch oven, cast iron Dutch oven on the stovetop here. So a deep pan, if you have one, is ideal. You also want to have some oven mitts at your side because of this high heat. Protect your hands. And then you also want another bowl that you can quickly transfer the popped quinoa to so that it doesn't stay in the hot pan and keep burning. Okay, it's pretty hard to see the difference, but hopefully you can tell a little bit. The ones up here at the top of my hand are not popped. They're just raw quinoa. And then here, you can hopefully see how they've opened up a little bit. And so you can see kind of like a white puffed center. Some of them are just sort of cracked open a little bit. Some it's more obvious that kind of an outer shell has come off a bit and the inside has puffed up. But you can tell how there's not that much of a difference to your eye, but when they're in the pan, you'll see them all jumping around. And the other big difference for how you can tell if they're popped, not all of the seeds will pop. Just like when you pop popcorn, a lot of the time you have some seeds that don't pop, but with popcorn, you can't really, I wouldn't recommend eating the seeds that don't pop, but the kernels that don't pop. But here, you'll have some seeds that don't pop and it'll be okay. But when you do taste popped quinoa that has indeed popped, you'll be able to chew it. If you try to just chew a spoonful of raw quinoa, it's not going to be pleasant and it'll be really hard and difficult to chew. But I don't know if you'll be able to hear. But it's just like a nice toasty crunch. It's not hard on my teeth. Let me know if you give this a try and how you find it. And now what I wanted to do with these was make my chewy chocolate chip granola bars that are on the blog. Usually I have chocolate chips on top of these, but I thought I could try putting this popped quinoa as like a crunchy topping of these granola bars. So I have exactly like 25 minutes before I need to go back to work. I should be able to make these, but we'll taste test them afterwards. I usually use raisins for this recipe, but I don't have raisins today. So I'm gonna use dates instead. And there's some oats in there. There's sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, peanut butter, and I think that's it. And I make it all in my food processor. So let's make them. I think the quinoa on top of these worked really well, actually, and it gives them like a really nice toasty crunch. I know there's quite a few recipes for like popped quinoa covered in chocolate, and I'm sure that's delicious. And we just kind of finished Christmas with lots of chocolate treats, so I wasn't feeling like making something that was just like a brick of chocolate and puffed quinoa, although that would be really tasty. So I'll probably try that sometime soon. But for now, topping like a sticky granola bar or some other sort of bar with these works. So I think I used, I'd say probably like 2 to 3 tablespoons of popped quinoa would cover like what size pan was that? Probably like an 8x8 inch baking pan. Bryan did taste these, but he's so sick. He's in the full throes of sickness. So I saved him from doing an on-camera taste test. But he did have one and then he said, can I have another half of one? So I think that's that gives his approval. They're pretty different than the granola bars on the blog that I was imitating because I used dates instead of raisins. I also used toasted sunflower seeds instead of raw sunflower seeds. And so you can really taste the sunflower toastiness. But in a way, the sunflower flavor, if I didn't know sunflower seeds, I might think it was quinoa. And then I know these are sesame seeds, but it kind of sort of tastes, if you were to put a bunch of maple syrup in this, like sesame snaps. So they have that like really sort of like toasty, nutty, even though they're not nuts. Am I making any sense? I think we need to wrap this up. But let me know if you give a version of this a try and what you think. I hope this video on some of the different ways that we use quinoa has been helpful. Let me know in the comments what other kind of ingredients you want to see these videos on. I already have quite a long list, but I love hearing what you're interested in. So thank you again for watching. Hit that subscribe button if this has been helpful and if you've liked having this little glimpse into what our lives were like this week. And like, comment, and share all of those things that help our channel to grow. We recently hit 50,000 subscribers, so let's keep it going. We so appreciate you. Thank you, and stay healthy. Oh my goodness. Bryan just got out of the bath.
I'm sick.
He was so sick. I was like, go take a bath. Little sneak peek for the end of the video.